Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm David, and today I'm going to talk about and review the Redwall series by Brian Jacques. Now, I think the reason why people really enjoy and like the Redwall series has to do with how the author is able to really make this warm, inviting feel within the pages. And I personally think this has in part to do with the characters themselves that he comes up with. They are very different and unique, as well as the names themselves that he takes great length to really come up with. Even if a character's only in one page of the entire book, he will make a name for it, as well as the world of Redwall itself, which includes Redwall Abbey and the surrounding country. Now, this series is actually the reason why I really love reading today and why I got into reading originally. It remains one of my favorite series of all time. And this has a lot to do with how the author, Brian Jacques, is able to just grab and pull you in, no matter which book it is. And the stories can be different from book to book. Behind me, right here, you can see the whole Redwall series right here, except for these three books and these two books. But the rest of them are the series. They were written between 1986 to 2011. There are 22 books in all, so it's really a massive series. But I think when people start reading it, they really grow to love the fact that there's so many books. At least I did. You always want more to the story. One of the unique things about Redwall is there really are only animals and creatures in it. There are no humans. And these creatures are really split from each other. There are really the good creatures and the evil creatures. The good creatures have to do with animals and others such as mice, badgers, squirrels, moles, shrews, hares, and some of the birds. The birds can depend on which bird. They can be either bad or good. And then the evil creatures have to do with creatures such as rats, weasels, stoats, and ferrets, foxes, cats, toads, lizards, snakes, and others. And so you really know when you read the book and the pages, you really know when a certain character is introduced that it will be either bad or good. There are some exceptions to this in some of the books, but in general, this is kind of a rule. Now, Redwall Abbey itself is really a fortress surrounded by these walls, and because of this, it's a place of peace and of plenty. And inside, they really are self-sustaining with, they have their own orchards they grow inside the walls, and gardens, and they have their own pond to fish in, as well as they make their own cheeses and their own drinks. And this is the reason why a lot of the bad creatures end up attacking Redwall, because they want it. But as well, there is also, this kind of brings in the big feast that the author always talks about in all the books. And it's one of the best things about the books. And I remember watching an interview of the author, Brian Jacques, talking about this, and how he really doesn't like when they just mention somebody will mention a feast, and then just kind of, they left the feast. He wanted to know what happened to the feast, so he kind of really made it, really can explain the feast, and you can really see this. And the food themselves are really taken to great lengths to really explain a lot. And I find that I got hungry when I was reading it. I've really not experienced this in any other book series. Now, outside of Redwall, there is Mossflower Country, which is a forest that surrounds most of the side of the walls. And in front of the main entrance, main gate, there's a long road that goes from the north to south. And this road is always constantly there. I kind of like the idea of it. And whenever the characters leave on their journeys, some of the time they will take this road if it goes in the right direction. Other creatures, like the bad creatures, will also take it to get to Redwall, ironically, as well. Now, there is a river called the River Moss, which you follow it all the way out to the west coast, you will come across the ocean, where a lot of the evil creatures I find come from on ships, from islands sometimes they control out there. And now, sometimes they don't always come from the ocean, but I find most of the time they do. And they are always fighting sometimes amongst themselves even. And these evil creatures will always want more, and want power and more wealth. And because of this, there is a mountain, a fortress mountain that's called Salamandastron, where badger lords and hares kind of keep guard and watch over the ocean for invaders. And so places inland like Redwall Abbey keep safe from invading forces a lot of the time. And my favorite characters in Redwall are really the hares. They are really the light-hearted, joking creatures, and whenever they're always starving, as they say. And so it's always a lot of fun whenever they come in, and if they join another companion for a journey or something. The hares really do make those pages. Besides the Redwall books, there are also the audio books, which I really do recommend to check out. The author himself narrates it, and there are a whole host of actors who bring to life the voices of all the creatures in it. And even the songs in the books are brought to life as music. And it's really a lot of fun to listen to. And now there was also a TV show that was aired years ago, a cartoon. They did it on Redwall, the first book, Mattimeo, the third book, and Martin the Warrior, the sixth book. And this was really the reason why I started reading the Redwall series, because of this TV show. Now, when I started watching it, the Martin Warrior wasn't out yet because it didn't come out for a few years after Redwall and Mattimeo. And Redwall and Mattimeo really do go together as books or as for a TV series. And when I was watching it at the time, of course I was young, so I really liked cartoons, and it was my favorite cartoon. I loved the story in it, and I always wanted to know more. And the problem was I couldn't actually watch it every day of the week, and so I always missed parts of the story, and there was always holes in it. And I wanted always to know, like in the first book, TV show, Redwall, I wanted to know more about the foxes, or Mattimeo. I really wanted to know the ending of Mattimeo. I never got the ending. And so, for Christmas, my parents got me the first Redwall book. It's the first thing I wanted to do. I jumped into those pages. I really wanted to know what happened. And I got lost in it. And in a good way. And I found my way out. And when I finished it, I loved it. And I wanted more. And the first thing that came to mind, well, there was more to the TV show. There was Mattimeo. So I went out to get the book. And I found there was this whole series. Now at the time, the series was really was half, a little more than half it is now. The author was still writing it, and so, but I remember enjoying those months. And by the time the summer came, I had finished all the books that were out yet, all the way up to Taggerung. And I went to the store, the bookstore, to buy it, and they told me that it was out, but it wasn't sold yet. So I was kind of discouraged, disappointed. Okay, I had to wait. And so I did wait, but that summer I went on vacation with my family, and I went to the beach. And in a shop, I actually found Taggerung. So it kind of became this tradition for me that every year I'd buy the book when it came out and read it on this vacation. Each one of these books now are really separate in their story from each other. That each book will finish for itself. So there aren't really too many spoilers. I mean, there can be always some spoilers, but in general, I don't really find it this way. When you read it, you can really read it in a sense, different orders. Now, it does jump around a lot with the time frame. It'll sometimes books will jump to years in the future. Or seasons, as Redwall would say, because they only go by seasons, they don't go by years. So seasons into the future. Or they would go seasons into the past, to even before the first book, Redwall, to times of legendary figures like Martin the Warrior or Lord Brocktree. And so, because of this, you could read it in two different ways. You could read it in the way the timeline did it, or you could read it the way I did it. And because, of course, the series was still coming out when I was reading it, but I also kind of enjoyed it that way, reading it how the author was writing them. And I kind of like the mystery in how, and finding out more about certain places in Redwall and the country surrounding. The first book, Redwall is really the start of the whole series. So I really do recommend to start with that book. It really tells you a lot about Redwall Abbey inside itself and outside in the country a little bit as well. It has the first riddles, which are packed. All the books have them in them, and they're a lot of fun to read. But I would also say, though, I don't think the series is really established until you read the first 2, or I would even argue the first 3 books, because these creatures, especially, you find that the world in the first one, even though there's no humans ever in any of these books, the first book you find kind of feel like there's hinted that there might be humans out there in the world, whereas when you come to Mossflower, really there aren't ever anything. You don't really find that at all. And it's really this world of these creatures. Even though the first book does have, it is really the world of the creatures, but it's different in the sense where the Mossflower will have the creatures more human-like to each other, like cats, for instance, or badgers will be closer to other animals. Now, those 2 animals will also be very large compared to a rat or a mouse, but in more relation to a tall human or a shorter human. So more in that way. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, I will be reviewing every book individually, as well as other books I plan on reviewing as well. So if you'd like more, please subscribe, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.